The atmosphere at Manchester City is one of close observation and strategic maneuvering behind the scenes. The board monitors every detail of the international market, while Pep Guardiola, meticulous as ever, coolly analyses the opportunities that may arise. And one of them, perhaps the most tempting, involves a name that needs no introduction: Vinicius Jr. The Brazilian forward, valued at an astonishing $150 million, is experiencing a moment of tension at Real Madrid. His relationship with Xabi Alonso, newly appointed as head coach, seems far from harmonious. The environment in Madrid, once revolving around Vinicius's joy and boldness, now feels heavier, more restrained, as if something were about to explode. Sources close to the Spanish club claim that talks to renew his contract have simply collapsed. No progress, no positive signals. As a result, Real Madrid are said to have decided to set a price on their number 7, turning what once seemed unthinkable into a concrete possibility. And, as expected, Manchester City are keeping a close eye on the situation. There have been no public moves or direct negotiations, but it is well known that Guardiola admires Vinicius's aggressive and unpredictable style. The Spanish manager has always had a soft spot for players capable of breaking open a game with a burst of pace, and the Brazilian fits that profile perfectly. The timing, however, is delicate. City feel no urgency, especially since their current squad is full of attacking options. Jeremy Doku is in excellent form, combining power and speed, while Oscar Bob and Ryan Cherki offer youth and versatility. Even so, nobody doubts that if the opportunity arises, the English club could enter the race decisively. Guardiola's philosophy has always been to anticipate the future, not merely react to it, and the arrival of a talent like Vinicius could redefine City's attack for the next era. Meanwhile, Real Madrid are facing an internal dilemma. The board, aware of the Brazilian's commercial and sporting value, hesitates between pushing for reconciliation or opening the door to a record sale. Interest from Saudi Arabia complicates matters further, with rumors that the Saudi government is prepared to fund an astronomical offer, giving Vinicius the freedom to choose any club in the league. The forward, for his part, avoids public statements, but those close to him confirm he is frustrated with how the new coaching staff have handled his role as the team's main star. Guardiola and City's sporting director, Txiki Begiristain, have a clear strategy: patience. The plan is to monitor how the situation evolves until mid-2026, when the transfer window may present a more favorable and less inflated landscape. For City, who are constantly seeking reinforcements that fit both their playing style and club culture, every detail is carefully evaluated. It is not merely about signing a star, but about finding someone who maintains the collective standard while offering something unique that no other player in the squad possesses. While the Vinicius rumor dominates headlines, another important Manchester City name is also back in the spotlight, this time for sentimental reasons. Bernardo Silva, one of the club's most consistent and admired players, is beginning to see the end of his cycle approaching. The Portuguese midfielder, who joined City in 2017 and became a symbol of elegance and tactical intelligence, may be close to returning to Benfica, the club where he was formed and which has always held a special place in his heart. Former defender and Portuguese legend Humberto Coelho reignited the speculation by declaring that Bernardo's return is inevitable. "It's not a question of if, but when," he said confidently. At 31, Bernardo has already won practically everything possible in English football: 6 Premier League titles, a Champions League, and a multitude of domestic trophies. More than that, he has become one of the team's leaders in the dressing room, especially after the departures of other key figures. His captain's armband symbolizes not only the respect he has earned, but also the weight of his journey within the club. Behind Coelho's confidence lies an intriguing fact. Bernardo's contract expires in 2026, and so far there have been no concrete talks about renewal. For Benfica, that timeline represents a real opportunity to plan a powerful emotional and sporting move. The return of an idol with international status would be capable of reigniting the pride of supporters and strengthening the club's sporting project. Guardiola, for his part, is already preparing for the inevitable. He knows that at some point Bernardo will move on, and although City have sought specific replacements, few players possess his combination of tactical intelligence and discipline. Every match he plays is a reminder of how City have become a side built on precision, and losing that cog will demand creativity and reconstruction. But not everything at Manchester City revolves around long-term planning or transfer rumors. There are immediate problems to solve as well. Mateo Kovacic, the Croatian midfielder who arrived with high expectations, faces yet another difficult battle with injuries. He will need to undergo another surgery, this time to treat a recurrence of his Achilles tendon problem. The procedure is expected to sideline him until at least March 2026. It is a heavy blow for Guardiola, who valued Kovacic's experience and versatility in midfield. Since arriving at the Etihad, Kovacic has alternated between promising spells and long absences. His adaptation to City's high-intensity, technical style has been repeatedly interrupted by physical issues. The medical team are trying to manage a careful recovery plan, but the schedule demands quick solutions. Croatian coach Zlatko Dalic even commented publicly, expressing concern about the player's World Cup participation. "It's tough mentally, not just physically. He wants to help, but his body isn't responding as it should," he said. Kovacic's absence could trigger a domino effect within the squad. Guardiola is likely to rely more heavily on alternatives such as Rodri and John Stones, who have already performed hybrid roles between defense and midfield. Youngsters like Rico Lewis will also see increased opportunities, reinforcing the notion that City are undergoing a quiet transition, preparing the next generation for greater responsibility. Even so, the board is considering options for January. A versatile midfielder, with a physical and technical profile similar to Kovacic's, could become a primary target. Meanwhile, another case is drawing attention within the club. Nathan Ake, the Dutch defender who has long been one of the squad's most reliable players, is visibly discontent with his lack of minutes. Netherlands manager Ronald Koeman confirmed that the defender is frustrated with his current situation. Despite continuing to receive national team call-ups and being considered one of the captains, Ake has lost ground at City. The reason is simple: competition is fierce. With Joško Gvardiol, Ruben Dias, and John Stones all in top form, and youngster Nico O'Reilly emerging as a pleasant surprise, Ake has been relegated to a secondary role. Since the start of the season, he has played just over 390 minutes, far below what would be expected for a player of his caliber. Koeman was blunt on the matter. "Nathan is disappointed, and rightly so. He always delivers. He's disciplined and technically sound. He wants to play more. For us, he's essential, especially as a left-footed defender, something rare." His words made it clear that if the situation does not change, a January transfer could be considered. Ake's contract runs until 2027, but he wants regular playing time to secure a place at the next World Cup. Guardiola, on the other hand, insists that rotations are a natural part of the system. The issue is that with City still competing on all fronts, and with such a balanced squad, opportunities are not always available for everyone. Ake's frustration is understandable, but it also highlights the level of demand and competitiveness within the group. Fans are watching everything closely. Between transfer rumors, emotional farewells, and worrying injuries, Manchester City are living through one of those periods where every piece of news seems to shape the future. Guardiola, meticulous as ever, knows that the decisions made today will define the years to come. And while Vinicius Jr. remains a tempting shadow in the distance, Bernardo Silva may be writing his final chapters in sky blue. Behind the scenes at the Etihad, the word that defines the moment is transition. Manchester City have grown accustomed to dominating the Premier League with ease, turning the impossible into routine. Yet even the most solid dynasties must reinvent themselves, and Guardiola understands that the real challenge now is not to win, but to maintain the hunger for victory. That is why every detail, every rumor, and every market decision carries strategic weight. The potential arrival of Vinicius Jr., Bernardo Silva's emotional return to Benfica, Kovacic's slow recovery, and Ake's dissatisfaction are all part of the same chessboard. City are preparing their next silent revolution. The sporting project, drawn up since 2016, does not rely on improvisation. The idea is clear: to keep the squad among the most technically gifted in the world, with players capable of performing multiple roles and understanding football as a fluid system. This is why Guardiola is always one step ahead. While other clubs wait for the market to dictate opportunities, City create their own. The observation of Vinicius Jr, for instance, is not a whim. It is part of a mapping process that has been underway for months, studying how the potential departures of stars such as Bernardo and De Bruyne could affect the team's offensive balance. The Brazilian would be the type of signing that redefines a team's status, not only because of his individual quality, but because of his global impact. The Premier League, which has become the epicenter of modern football, would see in Vinicius a symbol of youth, talent, and spectacle. And for City, who are looking to further expand their fan base in South America, it would be a masterstroke in marketing and projection. Guardiola, however, cares less about the spotlight and more about the fit. He knows Vinicius is a player who thrives on freedom, improvisation, and confidence. Yet City's tactical system, sophisticated as it is, demands positional discipline and complete collective understanding. The challenge would be to balance those worlds without limiting the forward's natural brilliance. While the analysis department studies how Vinicius could adapt to City's model, the club continues to deal with internal dilemmas. Bernardo Silva's leadership is a clear example. Guardiola has always said that the Portuguese is the player who best understands what he wants on the pitch. His movement, reading of the game, and tactical commitment are unmatched. But time spares no one. At 31, Bernardo feels he has given everything he can to England. His emotional bond with Benfica speaks louder, and that nostalgia is beginning to weigh on him. Guardiola, ever pragmatic, respects that. He knows that true leadership is measured by the freedom to choose. The emotional impact of Bernardo's possible departure would be huge within the squad. Many young players see him as a mentor, someone who demonstrates through actions what it means to wear the City shirt. For the fans, it would mark the end of an era defined by talent, loyalty, and intelligence. But the club is preparing for it with cold logic. The search for new figures to fill that void is already underway. Some eyes are turning to Jamal Musiala of Bayern Munich, others to Florian Wirtz of Leverkusen. Both are young, creative, and capable of interpreting the game with the same refinement Bernardo has shown over the years. Amid all these movements, Guardiola faces another test, managing a squad increasingly demanding about playing time. Nathan Ake is the most emblematic case. The defender has always been a model professional, never controversial, always focused. But even an elite athlete's patience has limits. Koeman has made it clear that he needs to play, and that external pressure could accelerate decisions. City, who value internal harmony, do not want to lose an important dressing room figure. But they also understand that keeping dissatisfied players can be a silent risk. Ake, despite everything, still has the full respect of the coaching staff. Guardiola considers him a complete defender, capable of playing in 3 different positions. His issue is not performance, but context. With Gvardiol and Ruben Dias solid and Stones recovered, opportunities have narrowed. However, the manager values loyalty, and there is a real chance Ake will return to the main rotation as the calendar tightens. City will compete in 4 tournaments simultaneously over the coming months, and the workload is inevitable. Guardiola has always said that seasons are won in February, when body and mind are pushed to their limits. That is when players like Ake become vital again. But what worries the fans more than rotation is the medical department. Kovacic is not the only delicate case. Other players are being managed with caution. The intense rhythm and positional style of play take their toll. The Croatian, however, symbolizes something bigger: human fragility within a system that demands perfection. His struggle with pain and uncertainty resonates throughout the squad. Teammates describe his presence in the dressing room as inspiring, even when he is not playing. He attends training, joins tactical meetings, and guides the younger ones. Guardiola values that as much as a decisive goal. While City reorganize internally, the atmosphere at Real Madrid continues to deteriorate. The Vinicius situation has become a daily topic. Rumors that the Brazilian is willing to leave tired of tension and scrutiny, have found support in the Spanish press. City's name appears repeatedly among the potential destinations. The idea of seeing Vinicius under Guardiola's command sparks equal parts curiosity and fear. Some analysts claim that with him, City would reach a new offensive level, a blend of unpredictability and control that would make them almost unstoppable. At the Etihad, the policy is one of absolute silence. Guardiola avoids commenting on players who are not part of the club, but the mutual respect between him and Vinicius is well known. During an interview after the 2023 Champions League final, Pep even praised the Brazilian forward, calling him one of the few who can change the course of a game on his own. Since then, the manager's interest has never faded. This controlled obsession is typical of City. Nothing is done on impulse. The scouting team works with detailed projections, assessing not only performance but also mentality, emotional resilience, adaptability, and even past relationships with coaches. For all his talent, Vinicius would have to embrace a new style of play, less about improvisation, more about collective reading. Guardiola demands that his forwards participate in the system, drop deeper, create triangles, and think of the game in blocks. It is the opposite of the vertical football Vinicius plays at Madrid. The challenge, therefore, would be twofold: to adapt the system while preserving his individual spark. While City plan for 2026, the present still offers plenty of challenges. The Premier League remains a battlefield where every lost point matters. Guardiola strives to balance ambition and caution, knowing that a motivated and united squad is worth more than any single signing. The potential arrival of Vinicius, Bernardo's farewell, Kovacic's return, and Ake's reintegration form a complex mosaic, a narrative of change, continuity, and quiet power. Manchester City are living through a moment when every decision feels like the prelude to a new era. The dominance built over the past decade is secure, but the future demands renewal. Guardiola, ever obsessed with detail, is already sketching what comes next. And perhaps, in a few years' time, we will look back on this phase as the turning point when City ceased to be merely England's dominant team and became the ultimate benchmark of modern football. Each season, Manchester City proves that success is no accident, but the result of planning and precision. Yet behind this appearance of stability lies a constant movement of quiet renewal. Guardiola knows that the golden cycle he has built since 2016 is approaching a new turning point. The team is not in crisis, but it stands on the verge of inevitable transformation. The potential departures of Bernardo Silva and Kevin De Bruyne by 2026, combined with the pursuit of Vinicius Jr., make it clear that City is preparing a new generation of protagonists. The challenge now is to maintain the same standard of excellence without losing its identity. Guardiola has always insisted that football is a living organism. What works today can become obsolete tomorrow. For that reason, he constantly reconfigures the team, adjusting concepts and roles. In 2023, City played with a false nine and wide wingers. In 2024, the focus shifted to compactness and positional dominance. Now, the manager is testing a hybrid, more vertical approach, inspired by some concepts he observed at Real Madrid and Bayern. That is where the interest in Vinicius begins to make sense. The Brazilian forward would be the element of chaos within order. City has always functioned like a perfect machine, but sometimes it lacks the unexpected, that unscripted move that breaks defenses and changes the game's rhythm. Guardiola understands that the club's next step is to balance discipline and instinct. If Vinicius embraces this transformation, City would gain an unrivaled weapon. The combination of Foden's vision, Haaland's precision, and the Brazilian's pace would create a multi-layered attack impossible to contain. But City does not move purely for technical reasons. The club also considers the cultural impact of every decision. The signing of Vinicius, for instance, would have global resonance. It would represent not only sporting reinforcement, but also a symbol of expansion into the Latin American market, especially Brazil. The Premier League is now the most watched competition on the planet, and having a star like Vinicius under Guardiola's command would further extend the club's commercial reach. For the board, That is as important as victories on the pitch. While the board plans the future, Guardiola faces the present with a squad still seeking balance. Kovacic's long absence forced the manager to rethink the midfield. Rodri has become the team's brain, but the load on his shoulders increases with each match. John Stones, used as a midfielder in several games, has performed well, yet his fragility remains a concern. Therefore, City has already begun analyzing alternatives for the next transfer window. Names such as Joshua Kimmich and Nicolo Barella appear in internal reports. Both combine intensity, passing quality, and tactical awareness, exactly the profile Guardiola demands. However, no signing is ever made without the manager's full conviction. Guardiola has always preferred to adapt players already in the squad before looking for external reinforcements. That was the case with Rico Lewis, who transformed from a fullback into a functional midfielder. The young Englishman is viewed internally as a long-term project, capable of inheriting a leadership role in the future. This build-from-within philosophy explains why City rarely enters bidding wars. The focus is not on buying names, but on constructing systems. Even so, there is acknowledgement that some changes are inevitable. Bernardo Silva is one of those departures the club has already come to accept naturally. His return to Benfica is more than a transfer. It is a cycle coming full circle. The player himself, in recent interviews, has let slip a nostalgia difficult to hide. He spoke of missing Lisbon, of wanting to play at home again, of gratitude towards City, but also the need for new challenges. When asked, Guardiola responded calmly, "Bernardo deserves to do whatever he wants." He gave everything. This kind of maturity is what sets Manchester City apart. The club understands that it is not merely about replacing players, but about preserving a culture. The exits of figures such as Bernardo and De Bruyne will mark the end of an era, but will also open space for new leaders. Foden, already matured, is one. Haaland, who arrived as a promise and became a reference point, is another. And there are emerging talents like Oscar Bob, now showing consistency, and Rayan Cherki, signed as a prospect for the future. But Guardiola knows leadership goes beyond talent. It involves mentality, commitment, and tactical discipline. That is why he devotes so much time to individual conversations. He believes a winning team must be made up of players who understand the collective purpose. At City, every athlete has a defined function within the ecosystem, and it is precisely this mentality that the manager fears losing as idols begin to depart. Meanwhile, Nathan Ake's case remains a sensitive point. The defender continues to be an exemplary professional, but the lack of minutes could have consequences. His contract until 2027 offers stability, yet his motivation depends on prominence. Rumors suggest Italian and German clubs have already shown interest, mainly due to his versatility. City, on the other hand, does not want to let him go. Guardiola trusts Ake, especially in big matches where his concentration and positioning are decisive. The trend is for him to regain space as the season progresses, particularly in knockout ties where defensive security is vital. At the other end, Kovacic's injury serves as a cruel reminder that time and the body do not always obey willpower. At 31, the Croatian faces a turning point similar to Bernardo's. His career has been marked by elegance and resilience, but the pace of the Premier League exacts a heavy toll. Guardiola regrets it, but is not surprised. He often says that modern football moves faster than the human body can endure. The focus now is on recovering Kovacic without haste, but with the certainty that his experience will still be needed when the decisive months arrive. At the center of all this stands Guardiola himself, whose presence on the touchline has become synonymous with excellence. Yet internally, discussions have begun about what will follow him. His current contract ends in 2026, and so far there has been no decision on renewal. The manager avoids the subject, but there are signs he could bring the cycle to a close. City, aware of this, is already studying options discreetly. Xabi Alonso, Mikel Arteta, and even Roberto De Zerbi are names mentioned behind the scenes. The idea is not just to find a replacement, but an heir to the philosophy. If Guardiola truly steps down, The impact would be comparable to Ferguson's departure from Manchester United in 2013, but City seems determined not to repeat their rivals' mistakes. The club has been structuring its technical and data departments so that the tactical identity does not depend solely on the manager. The style of play, analytical model, and recruitment process are standardized, ensuring continuity even during transitions. That is the difference between a modern project and a club driven by impulses. For this reason, the 2025-26 season will not be just another one. It will mark the start of a new chapter, possibly the last under Guardiola's command, but also the first of an era in which City will cease to be merely a reflection of one man and become an institution with its own identity. The arrival of Vinicius Jr., Bernardo's farewell, Kovacic's recovery, and Ake's future all intertwine in this narrative of change and continuity. Each piece fits within a broader plan, designed with the precision of those who understand that in modern football, winning is not enough. One must remain relevant. And so, Manchester City continues writing another chapter of its story, filled with triumphs, twists, and characters who defined an era. From the potential pursuit of Vinicius Jr. to the uncertain future of Bernardo Silva, from Kovacic's fight against time to Ake's patience in search of his place, everything connects under a single purpose: keeping City at the summit of world football. Under Guardiola's leadership, and perhaps on the verge of a new era, the club shows that the secret of success lies not only in victory, but in the ability to reinvent itself without losing its essence. And now I want to hear from you, citizen supporters. Would Vinicius fit Guardiola's style? Should Bernardo end his career at City or return to Benfica? And who would you like to see managing the club after Pep? Leave your opinion in the comments below, because your voice is part of this football conversation. If you enjoyed the video and want to stay up to date with everything happening at Manchester City, make sure to like the video now and subscribe to the channel. That way you will not miss any updates about the most dominant team in the Premier League. Turn on the notification bell and join us to follow every behind-the-scenes moment, every rumor, and every victory of the citizens. The best of football passes through here, and you are part of this story. Yes.